Good evening. Welcome to the third keynote of Atmosphere 13 Symposium at the Faculty of Architecture, University of Manitoba. Thanks for joining us in this evening. For those of you who are joining now, this year we are connecting with practices in different time zones. This evening we are connecting with Bangkok. It's great. The speaker will be introduced by Evan McPherson. He's a graduate student, thesis student at Department of Landscape Architecture, and he will also moderate the conversation. And the conversation will be joined by landscape architect Megan Hunter, who will be introduced by Evan as well. Evan, do you want to take it over?
Yes. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 13th Annual Atmosphere Symposium. And as Jay said, tonight I have the pleasure of introducing our third keynote speaker. Kotchakorn Voraakhom is a landscape architect from Thailand who works on building productive green public space that tackles climate change in dense urban areas and climate vulnerable communities. She was educated in both her native Thailand and received a graduate degree in landscape architecture from Harvard. Her firm Land Process has opened the way for radically rethinking urban relationships with water in Bangkok. Tonight's lecture is entitled Landscape Porosity, Why We Need Water-Based Urbanism. We'll discuss the importance of the free flow of water and wind as essential elements to the survival of water-based cities like Bangkok. Kotchakorn says, landscape porosity can help us better understand and defend these urban ecosystems in times of climate change. I'd also like to introduce our professional guest, Megan Hunter. Megan received both her Bachelor of Environmental Design and Master's degree in Landscape Architecture from the University of Manitoba. Currently, she works as a senior landscape architect at Naughty Design, based here in Winnipeg. Hello, Megan and Kotchakorn. Thank you for both being here. Tonight's going to be a little different. We're going to do about 3 segments. So we'll do, I think it's about 20 minutes of presentation. We'll do a little bit of Q&A, more presentation, and more Q&A. And then at the end, depending how much time we have left, we'll do, again, the final Q&A. So without further ado, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Kotchakorn Voraakhom. Welcome to Atmosphere. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Ivan. Swadika, I'm Koch, and yes, very nice to be here. Even we are so far apart. Like I'm from Thailand, I'm sitting here in Bangkok, maybe the opposite side from the world. And yes, let's make this session as interactive as possible. So if any of you have questions, you can type to the chat box, and maybe Ivan can just help gather that, and then we can have it in every small break that we have. So let me start my presentation. I would share my screen right now. Maybe I start with this 1-minute video from NAS Daily. Yes. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Hi. The part you see behind me is fixing one of the biggest problems. But first, let me tell you what the problem is. Flooding. Flooding happens when water overflows into an entire city. This can ruin homes, streets, and lives. And according to data, flooding is only going to be a bigger and bigger problem. Take Bangkok, for example. Bangkok was a small city near a river. But over the years, the city grew with more concrete buildings and streets. It went from a land that could absorb water to a land that could not. So when it rains in Bangkok, it can more often than not flood. And that can be deadly.
Authorities struggle to evacuate people. The severe flooding here in the Northeast as more rain continues to fall today.
It's a real problem in this city, your city, and most cities around the world. They are sinking while the water levels are rising. And that's where this woman comes in.
Hi, my name is Kotchakorn Voraakhom. I'm from Thailand and I design parks.
She built a park that is designed from the grounds up to protect from flooding. See, unlike the flat streets of Bangkok, this park is tilted up. So when it rains, the water doesn't stay in one place. It falls down to the bottom and is collected here in a water pond. Then she built a water tank underneath the park that collects all the rain. So the water that would normally flood is now stored inside this park. And in the dry season, the tank is used to water the plants. Up to 1 million gallons of water can be saved this way. It's a win-win-win.
From this talk, I want people to learn how to live with nature, and that nature keeps changing. So I want people to be able to adapt to the new challenge of climate change.
In reality, though, this park is only 0.003% of Bangkok area. So realistically, it will not fix the flooding problem, but it's a good start. It's a good start for smarter city development. It's a good start for making a city more green. It's a good start for water conservation.
My next goal is to create more parks.
And if there is one thing we can learn from this park and this woman, is that no water should ever be wasted, not even one drop of it. See you next week!
Yes, so I think it's such a quick and fun video to share with you guys, and I'm now starting the series lecture right now. Yes. Okay, you guys see my screen. So feel free to type your questions. So I'm Koch. So I'm a landscape architect based in Bangkok, Thailand. I used to work in the US for 7 years, and I moved back home. And last 2 years, last 2 years, I was named as a 15 women leading fight against climate change, with many of it's close to the International Women's Day. So I would like to celebrate that. The climate change or landscape architect or every profession, we need an equal gender decision making, because half of the world population are women, no matter gender there is. But I just feel that we need to hear more of these people, because yes. Last 2019, I was named as one of the 100 future most influential from Time magazine. Last year I was named as a Green 30 for 2020. I was very honored to have one of Southeast Asian person to be in the list of the 30 who working. Teach last semester at Harvard University, right before COVID. During the COVID, well, we we very brave. We brought students from the US, which is like they are so brave to come to Thailand. And at that time, we still don't know what is COVID. Is it just a flu or what it is? So we went there with cautions, with masks and cleaning hands. But I was so honored because I'm graduated from that. As an alumni, I'm able to transmit my know-how to the younger generation, and then brought them to see that climate change is not about polar bear melting ice, but it's actually flooding here, and it's actually many other problems that is so unique in every part of the world, and we need to work on it locally and internationally. I talked a lot. I was the keynote at the UN National Adaptation Plan that was held in Korea. at that time I was a little like confused, like why landscape architect, or like why me up there with many governor. So I was just present my work, and okay, recently that I was got the Climate Action Award from the UN as a woman for result. And I was just like, yeah, I'm wondering why landscape need to be involved in such a world stage, and I'm just designing parks, right? So I just feel that we are talking about the world start to talking more about adaptation, because we know that mitigation try to reduce the carbon emission. It has been 10 years, but we didn't go any further. And we are talking policy and many other things. And in the sudden, landscape architect profession can make it happen, like on ground. So I just feel that to tackle climate change, we need both mitigation and adaptation now, not just mitigation. And this is Marshall Island. This is a country, and you can see that it's sinking as it's in Asian Pacific. And this is one of the like just landing the airport, and then this is considered a country, and there are so stucco. And I think one of the ministry got like a 15 women fighting against climate change with me from Time Magazine, because this is a problem she's now facing. And from Southeast Asia, anyone from Southeast Asia in this lecture? No, can I? No, it's just me. Ooh, okay. We can talk. I'm sure there is some association. But yeah, like many country, like my country, Indonesia, and many more, please share the problems. And we only think about water by not getting wet. We build dams, we build so many heavy infrastructure. This is our tax. This is my country, this is my city, Bangkok, and you can see how flat it is. And you can see like at the horizon, that's an ocean. That's the Gulf of Thailand. So we are not far from the ocean. And this is what the boundary of the ocean looked like. It used to be a mangrove, like very thick mangrove, very prosperity land that we can grow food for the world. But right now we actually destroy our own heritage, natural heritage, by importing shrimp. Like we are the great export of shrimp farm. But the shrimp farm destroy all the mangrove, and we're actually killing ourselves, because if the sea level rise, it's actually all this shrimp farm, and the ocean will go directly into the city. So don't eat shrimp. No, I'm just kidding. But it's such a really like bad industry, the food industry. Let's do plant-based kind of food, and we facing the most drought in 50 years. And this cycle, extremely wet, extremely dry, is happen like very frequent. Normally we expect like great flood every 10 years, but right now it's just like really uncertain with the situation right now. And I think it's not just us, it's like you as well. We are living in so uncertainty. And right now, we facing with PM 2.5. What is PM 2.5? It's the really, really like small particle that when you breathe, it's stuck into your lung right away because it's so small. And it's happened in India. Beijing is getting better with many policy that like growing like forests, stop using car, and many other things. But for us, we also import trash from the developed third world. So stop sending the trash to us. We don't want it. From America, from Japan, I'm not sure from Canada, but let's not get there. But it's so like, I don't know, like we export a good food to you guys export like this trash that you don't know how to figure out in your country because it's a law. And you export this to us the country that not figure out yet what it is. So we got a lot of import electronic trash. And this is what it's like. This is our daily life, 15 minutes of rainfall. This is very common. And right now with the COVID, you can see how we are doing good in the healthcare system. But there are so many things to be fixed. We cannot just rely on doctor. COVID pandemic, I'm sure is everywhere. And this is from the Nobel Prize economist. GDP is not good measurement of economic performance. It's not a good measurement of well-being, because if you sit and in the traffic 2 hours every day, you actually increase GDP because you're burning gas. But if you stay home with your family, the GDP not gonna go up. And how could we use this measurement, measure this world? I think this is so wrong. We need to fix this. We need to think more logically, not just money-wise. And if any of these people don't talking about environment, the climate change, the health, not only just human health, but environmental health, I think they are off the game. Everyone, even they believe or not, this is all the leaders have to come up and show that spirit and fix this problem, because we either adapt or die. Let me play this video.
During the high tide, for example, the sea level is already higher than Bangkok. Bangkok has situated on the soft clay, and there are layers of clay and sand. We don't have any rock layer. Some area, especially Bakapi area, has been sunk for 1 meter already.
We don't concern much about our natural waterways, which is canal. So that means we neglect about how the water will drain. This is part of the solution that can be replicated in other cities or within the city, that we need more space, more place to hold the water. I think there's so much work to be done, and we need to act faster. We have to be very more action action-oriented rather than just keep all this research of climate change on the shelf. So the policy maker or the community have to come together. It's a good start, but it's not definitely not enough.
Yeah, so I'm actually gonna go with the first part that I did with my team, with many professions at the Chulalongkorn University, and this is from the World Economic Forum. I'm very glad that there are so many other medias than just design to talk about our work, and I think this is so important. The landscape architect need to go out there and really share our solution with the world. So this part is actually like, I'm not talking about just too much of the water, I'm talking about too little of the water, and how the cities cannot have ability to absorb water anymore. And we as an urbanist is not allowed to get wet, which is something really wrong because this is Delta City. And I'm actually means New York, some part of it is Delta, Los Angeles, Japan, Sumida City. It's like London, New Orleans, Shanghai, many big city, many metropolitan cities actually situated on Delta land. Because it's, for us, it's like fertilization, because we are from the agricultural country, but for many industrial countries, a port land. So we are dealing with lots of water, and this is the park, and it's actually the street as well. Any of you have come to Thailand, you should know how concrete we are as a city. And this park is flat, so we incline the whole park. By inclining the whole park, we collect every drops of rain. And with incline, we tuck in with architecture, work with architecture, don't scare of them. Like be at par at the work from the beginning, don't come at the end, be the concept. And then the runoff drain down to the wetland and then to the retention pond. And people can help cycling and be part of this urban environment. The water will like ups and down, and they're just like, yeah, why today I have to bike so more heavily, like today is so light. It's actually they will understand that this is part of cleaning the water, irrigated. The Centenary Park got many awards from many countries, and actually welcoming Mr. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary, like the world figure of climate change. I'm so honored to have him as a support at the local level. And one thing about the climate change pandemic make it even more stressful is like food. Even we go food everywhere in Thailand, but I'm sure that in the North America, like everyone get food from supermarket, and it's so fragile. And in the winter, you cannot grow your own food. Where did you get your food? Where does it come from? The poverty, even it's food everywhere in Thailand, but there's some vulnerable community that still need food. And we actually confront with PM 2.5, and you can see that the food industry, because PM 2.5 for us is actually happen transboundary impact from Cambodia. They burn all the field, like they grow sugar cane to get sugar. They grow food for the animals, and then they burn it. And you can see amount of the particle is actually through the country and actually coming to Bangkok. And we also burn, but it's illegal. But still, it's a transboundary, and climate change is transboundary. So this is another project. of course, I'm not going to the policy. I'm not like politician, but this is the work I did with Thammasat University. They are building the iconic architecture, and I just like this. The roof space is such a waste space that we have in the city. Why can't we turn it into more profitable or fixing other problems? So we create the biggest urban farm, organic urban farm in Asia, something that we can beat Singapore. I'm sorry. And it's actually top 5 or largest in the world. But I think we are agricultural country. We should do something like this as and even just a beautiful architecture for human, but it's actually should fix many other problems. So I would urge that the rooftop waste space in the city is create such a bad impact on us. They only create heat, right? When you create heat from the sun, you create this urban heat island. I'm not sure in Canada you heard all this bad terminology, urban heat island, PM 2.5, but this heat is actually kept in the city when the temperature of the city is higher than the surrounding. So the wind could not get into the city. So we stuck in this kind of like, let's say we stuck in the car in the summer that you close out the door, that you don't have any channel for the window, and we just have to live in there. So all the pollution that we create is actually kept there, and it's part of the PM 2.5 problem. And that is part of coming from the heat, and it's from the concrete rooftop. Okay, I'm talking too much. So let's move on. And anyone want to make a guess where I get my inspiration from? Okay, let's stop here. No? Hi from Shanghai. Hi. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Maybe that agrarian cultural history that you reference.
The what, Ivan, you want to try?
I was just saying your inspiration maybe is coming from that agrarian cultural history that you reference.
Yes, yes. You're right. You're right. Okay, let's go back. I'm actually getting my inspiration from the culture that yes, about food. You see my screen? Yes, and it's actually from rice terraces from the northern part of Thailand, and I'm sure it's in many parts in this world, in Peru and Vietnam. So I'm wondering, like, we're talking about mountainous area, and the people from the past used to live with nature harmoniously, and this is how they harvest the rain and slow down rather than like a fresh water that we need just drain down to the ocean. They actually create these rice terraces for the rain to slow down and create food. But I'm wondering, why can't we think of that as a city? If all the city, all the rain that was washed down to this high rise, like the mountain, can actually grow food for the city. So we don't need to get the vegetable from far, from China. Sometimes it's actually export from there. And this is part of the climate change. So this is new generation of farmer. They don't need to farm on the ground because we have no ground. It's all turned into the city. They can come up to their own buildings, and this building is actually slow down 20 times of the runoff rather than like all the water flood into the public sewage. And in Thailand and in many countries, we still don't have the law talking about drainage law that you have to pay more if you don't think about drainage because you are bombarding the sewage public system and you actually create flood in the city. So this is actually slow down runoff, growing food. And at the four corner, we have a retention pond. So all the water will collect there and then pump up to the solar roof. And we also thinking about public space, and this roof can have place for students, and this is on the building. We can go rise. This is farmer with the iPhone, and yes, this is solution. And I'm so glad. I'm actually really happy that as an architecture, I'm sure you guys know this website. This is such a big platform of architecture. This work of is actually part of the project best as a theme of future architecture. Future architecture need landscape architect as part of the as part of the concept. You cannot just talk buildings anymore. It's not relevant to the problem we are trying to fix. We need to work together. Yes. So it's got our top sword if it's talking about sustainability, not talking about just the beauty of architecture. And I'm actually really direct on that. And yes. And the other project that's recently finished, I'm sure none of you have came because it's lockdown and it's COVID. And I'm working with the mayor of Bangkok, Mayor Aswin Kwanmeung, and many government sector, and also with the urban design called UDDC at the head of the project. We are landscape architect of this project. This is actually very common in Asia. I can say that a corrupted project that left as a monument around the city. And we have a lot of this, like thousand, a million baht project, and then not finished. The contractor gone somewhere. And we have all this monument. And this is part of the corrupted culture that we create this bridge and the train never come this path. They go to different path. So this bridge is amputated. So you cannot go up or you cannot go down. It's just like built as part of this bridge as a vehicle to have a sky train in the middle. So 40 years passed by. I don't even born with this project, and 40 years passed by. We actually finished. The Heatherwick one just opened. The London one hasn't been heard yet, but we actually the first one that's finished in Thailand, the first bridge across the river, the bridge park. Let's say the first park across the river in any capital, in any world capital. So this structure left amputated. In Thailand, you say there's no head, no tail. It's just like coming as a body. And we turn it into the pedestrian bridge, and it's connected existing park at the both side. And it's really opposite the first bridge that name under the founder of Bangkok. So this area is very historical Bangkok. Any tourist come to Bangkok have to come to this spot. So this is the new landmark of the city. But it's so narrow, it's like 8 meters, 280 meters in length. So we raise it up and making like a narrow park, the linear park, and it's finished. This is crazy. This is very hard. We have to like finding who's on the structure, which government sector, our government part try to claim who's owned this. It takes us years to find out. It takes us years to convince the governor. The governor working really hard themselves to make this project happen. And it's done. And it's so narrow that we have to like flip the space to have more function space on top. You can say it's like High Line of New York, but this is like in Bangkok version with the leftover infrastructure. And I feel that we should think more about the leftover infrastructure. Look around your city. 50 years from now, 20 years from now, or even today, some of it is already become like a ruins or become unused. Do we have to build something from the zero? No, we can't. We don't have that much resource to burn. like we thought 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So we have to reuse adaptive. So yes. And hospital, I go quick. This is another project with COVID. It's so crowded. You can see this is government hospital in Bangkok every day. With the COVID, how can we find more green space for staff, for patients? We use the leftover space on top using the waste from the hospital. Create the activity to the nurse, not to be so stressful. And this is government hospital to have some leftover rooftop, the helipad to use, urban farm. Yes, okay, let me stop. Any questions?
I don't see any in the chat yet, but I think just to start the very. Oh, sorry, Catherine.
I would not go further if I don't have any questions.
I have one.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for presenting, and your projects are so interesting and really exciting. And I have a question about the rooftop garden, or the farming. Does the building employ farmers to work those fields, or do people rent the space to farm? And I'll let you answer, and then I maybe have a follow-up question.
Okay, I think that's a very great question for every urban farming. It's not only just us as a designer to give a form, but how does it maintenance, how does it function? And normal landscape architect work is, of course, you have to think about that, but urban farming is actually based on community. So this is a rooftop on the university. So the model of the business model of running this rooftop is actually from the university. So they have like 40,000 members in the university, and they have students, and they have many related subjects that need to use this kind of space. And it's actually turned out to be an active learning areas. And they have a canteen, and they need organic food. They need a good food. They need all the vegetable. So all the canteen need to make an order what kind of vegetable they need. So the university will get that list and then hire the staff. Of course, the staff need more money sometimes. They need to or they love to do something relaxing after work with students. They come together, and then they get money from doing farming, 60%, and by selling it to the canteen. So actually just having one green roof, and it doesn't need to be this big, but it's actually create a circular economies within the university or within the community. And I would really, yes, that's but during COVID, it's very hard to manage, right? Like we learn online, many other things, but normal situation, this is how it's operated. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Two more questions before I'm moving on. Otherwise, we're just gonna see each other like this on the screen.
No. There's one in chat, which is similar to what I was thinking here. And so you spend a lot of time building up the international context and exposure and awareness. And I'm wondering, how's that impacting the national conversation in Thailand? And yeah.
Who's asking this question? Can you open your?
I'm asking the question, and it's also suggested by Alex Boss.
Hi, Alex. Where are you? Hi, Alex Boss. Hi, Alex. No. Hi, Alex. Hey.
Hi. Yeah, I was actually a bit more specifically, like you were saying, obviously we need to act faster, and I think we all agree with you there. But how are you convincing government officials to do that? I mean, you are so high energy, so I think that you probably would convince most people.
Oh my God, this is such a difficult question, and I still don't know the answer. Well, okay, I give a big credit to everyone on the team, and especially the leader that I serve, all the government. I really lucky to have chance to be part of the team. But let me answer Ivan questions as well. Like I'm being miserable, finish my first park and no one talk about it. Yeah, no one talk about it.
Really?
Like what? Yeah, it's like what? Okay, 100-year anniversary for like Harvard of Thailand, and that's it. And it's been like I feel like, oh my gosh, people are not gonna know what it is, why it is in Klein. And at that time, like the king passed away, like the previous king. So they were thinking about the monument. They want to put in the middle of the park because it's empty. And I just like, oh no, now I'm gonna die because like no one know what it is and the new things coming because people don't know about it. They think this is empty, so they want something like in the middle. And I just like, oh, I need to talk. I need to talk for myself. So I applied for TED Fellow. I went out of my country because no one cared about it. So I went to TED Talk, TED Fellow, and I was so lucky that they picked me. I was just like, okay, let's do TED Talk. I just need to talk about this before before the concept been changed. So I work really hard. I'm talking to all medias. I'm fighting. I fought really hard. Is of course it's not about they coming to me. I'm no one. Such I'm such a landscape architect from Thailand. Who are you? So it's really important to all of you, to every one of us, to talk about our work. Really confident and what we are standing for. So I did that, and it takes several years to people in Thailand to heard about me from the media outside, and they just say, "Oh, okay, she's Thai. She's actually next door." So I think that's kind of like become my journey, and to convince the government, I just feel that you need to have something done, and you need to prove it that it's work. And the first step is also the hardest. You cannot just like, yeah, I want to shout, I want this, and just go for protest. I think that is another way, and I really encourage that. But I think part of you, us, because we are learning to make things happen, we need to be an actor to parallel with the, with the request, with the world trend, with many other things too. So I just feel that yes, I don't know, but I really choose the leader that I serve. I'm not just serving anyone, I'm serving the right person, and I hope they are right person that I serve, right? The head of the university, the head of the different university, the head of the hospital. I hope that there are, yeah, you have to pick the right clients as well. Yeah, because otherwise they don't listen to you, right? And it's just a waste of each other time. So yes.
Well, I don't think you're giving the work enough credit, because you're gonna make this work and it's gonna have an impact. And I'm curious about what kind of impact the work has had so far, right? So like Chua Longhorn is the first park in 30 years, I believe, in Thailand. That's incredible, right? You'd think there'd be some kind of catalytic reaction. Like how is that impacting the surrounding precincts context, like the community, either economically or ecologically? Like it must be reaching a wider audience.
And it takes time, right? Like people start to recognize the park is so important. During the pandemic, they say, oh, we need it. This is the infrastructure of the city that we need. This is our mental health. And of course, like when they heard about it and when they know the concept, and then they start to get it, oh, this is not just park, it's actually helping our city, it's actually helping in many aspects of the city. So we needed more. We needed more, and the impact is great. And I think people start to hear more about it, and when they start to hear more about it, it's become trend and it's become must to do thing. So yes, but it's take time. It's a profession that you need to build things, you need to convince people, you need to get money, you need to build it correctly, and you need to talk about it. And yes.
One of my favorite images that you showed actually tonight was the water bikes, and how they engage society and the cleaning of water through the aeration, really demonstrates that clear connection between water and the individual. And like this, the result is a really smart, legible design. And so I'm wondering if you maybe have a story as to the design process of that, those moments of water engagement, or maybe you could expand how you consider that kind of legibility within your design work.
Okay, yes, that's another good one, Ivan. But can I go to Muhammad Araji?
Araji,
Are
yes.
you raising your hand?
Yes.
Are you gonna...
yes.
Okay. I just have really.
Can you open your camera? If possible. If not, that's fine.
Sure. That's not a problem. I will. Here you go. So I just have really 3 questions related to, it's happening that when we do roof gardens, the insurance premiums for buildings go up. Have you experienced any difficulty with that after you finish a building and you occupy it? How would the insurance company react to a roof garden? It's a technical question. It's a technical question that relates to the economic life, that relates to cost and maintenance of buildings after you do your projects. That is one question, and I have 2 more.
Okay, let me answer 2 questions. For Ivan, I just feel that whatever you design, if we're talking about climate change, we're talking about something like so big, and it's actually have to come to human experience, and people have to learn, because otherwise no point. People have to like know how to go through, because that's why even we talk about big infrastructure is also narrowed down to the how we're gonna associate. And as a designer, we have to think about this part really like invisible, like really part of how we design our work. So yes, I think that's why I come up with the water bike at the end of the water channel, the water route. For Muhammad, I don't think it's a technical problem, it's a mental problem to begin with. Like you have to convince the engineer who work building the building for like 30 years, 40 years, and come to me like, you are so inexperienced, you're too young, you're talking crazy. You like, I was like, no, I'm not crazy. Yeah, because you have to create trust for engineer as well, because otherwise they don't come with you. And when it's come to the leaking, this building have like an archive that really prestige to the nation. So it's have the library underneath. So the client even say that we love your concept, but we have this much money, but we so scared of leaking. So we just have to talk to the team, and we come up with like the double roof. So if the roof leaking, there are another roof. But within the roof, we use, of course, a standard liner with guarantee of the material for 15 years. So we do our best for not leaking. And with the slope of architecture, it's not gonna, the water not gonna stay, right? It's just gonna drain down to the gravity. So there are many, and in Thailand, we don't have insurance for building, of course, for fire or for what, but for leaking, it's still like something like, yeah, don't do it. So I think, yeah, so yeah,
Actually, you solved the problem by proposing double roof, but this adds the carbon footprint for the project, because you're doing double use of material for this purpose. So on one hand, you're saving some premium for the insurance, but you're making double use of material. And on this note, I do have a follow-up question on the roof garden in general when it relates to weight and structure. So if I'm thinking about a roof garden, obviously I have to account for a certain loading that goes from the soil and the plants and the rest of the landscape features that you are planning. So is there a golden rule of thumb, let's put it this way, that you can say for that much of a square footage, I'm expecting that percentage of increase in the cost or in the structural implementation.
Okay, yes, I get your questions, and I want to go quick because I have another part of my presentation as well. And I just feel that yes, it's adding on carbon footprint, but thinking about this as a whole city, that we are wasting this part of the structure doing nothing, right? And you can just do that green roof right on top of that structure if your structure is allowed. And with law, public building, you need all the floor need to weight able to contain 300 kilometers weight per square meters, which is like very fine for green roof. But this building is different because we have a nation treasure, the letter from the government that fighting to free us from communism, so we cannot leave. So you have to, it's not about always about carbon footprint. You have to know about the culture, you have to know about how things have been done, but in general, it's not going to create carbon footprint. It's actually going to reduce, okay? And in the long run, this building is not going to create the heat, so it's reduce the carbon footprint, of course, in the long run, and it's changed many dimensions. And also, yeah, I think the weight is very technical and right. Okay, did I answer questions? Okay, should I go further? Ivan, how many minutes do I have? I want to make it brief. I don't want to stay here for. Thank you, Muhammad, for your great questions.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I think, well, I'd like to see some more work, but we are kind of running short, but just
let me know the exact time. I can go really quick. It's like another 15 minutes or what?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's go. So I'm actually not working just for government, but I'm actually working as a facilitator to working with this vulnerable community who's stay in canal, floodplain, and many other part of the city who have to be displaced because they stay on the flood area, they illegally stay. So we use our ability as a designer to help them come up with solutions that they want. Also, we try as much to adding more green space for their health and actually for their livelihood as well. And I brought students to do this action as well because I feel that it's so important for the younger generation to understand that landscape architect is not only serve the industry that we understand 10 years ago. We are actually changing our role, and we have to. And this is one part of the northern part of Thailand, and this is the floodplain. And they just say, okay, we're gonna fix this with building dam on this red line, and hope they're lucky they call us, and we just like, if you build a dam, it's gonna flood other people because the amount of water is the same. We're just neglecting in your area, but it's gonna flood other people more. So it's actually really about equity, that some infrastructure that we think is a solution is not. And it's actually gonna flood you yourself behind the dam as well, because the water coming from many directions. So this is what the landscape look like right now. It's better not to do dams, actually. This is what it looks like. And it's like, yeah, we got 400 million baht for this budget. We're so happy, but they don't know what it looks like. That's the problem. And this is how it is. This is how life gonna be changed. And it's already been changed into many parts. This is in Jakarta. They only just dam the river. Is increasing the flow of the water, is actually flood behind the dams. The city looks so ugly, and this is how life is. I used to swim to see my neighbor, no more. So this is so bad. This is changing the relationship with us and water, and we cannot just use engineer. We need to work together. We need to like find a better solution for livelihood. And I have so many community that are working like that, like in the floodplain, in the canal, in the coast area. And I would invite you guys to come when the world's reopen again to see this problem. And yes, this is crazy. And you guys probably see this cartoon, this we talking, fighting about wearing masks, washing hands. Economics will go down, but we're actually talking even bigger than that, biodiversity loss. We're gonna go extinct. It's not just them, like animal that we make them all extinct. So I will stop my sharing and 10 minutes more for questions, and I think we're good. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Megan, do you have a question?
Thanks for presenting your projects. They were wonderful, and also being a strong advocate for a landscape architect to be kind of ahead of the process. In Canada, we often struggle with being the sub-consultant and come in like way after the site's been designed. So it's great to know that you're part of that original dialogue. My question goes towards your focus on designing for climate change. Climate change is obviously a very like large topic, and it's built largely on predictions. And I know we can design in terms of a response to history, what's happened, but how do you design for the the unforeseen futures? Like, how do you incorporate those flexibilities in your design and allow for the change of your landscapes and parks to like the geometry to change? And I'd be interested in knowing your process. And also, oh, I have one more question to follow up on that, or maybe you can talk about when I think of climate change, I often go very apocalyptic in my thought process. So where do you draw?
What does apocalyptic mean?
It just means like the most devastating outcomes. So I'm wondering, how do you draw your line of like when you're designing to design for this event without designing for the end of the world?
Okay, I'm actually talking about, you're actually talking about fear and being flexible. So we are talking about the design, and we're talking right now all around the world, talking so much about fear, right? We're talking about, yeah, it's going to be the end of the world, the flood's going to come this high. But if you go to that extreme, you can see what solution we get. We don't want to get wet. We need a higher dam, higher, right? So it's actually based on fear. Like we are too like energetic about the problem. Okay, let's go for flexibility. Flexibility is actually thinking our mindset. Flood is okay. It's part of our life. We are living in Delta City. If it flood, we park our car up high. We take our boat. If it's something that we can't do, we build our house on the stilts. This is very common traditional way of living with water. I think it's more about approaching the flexibility rather than try not to change yourself at all and trying to fix the nature. So I just feel that I cannot say exactly what's my boundary of design is, but every design have limitation. How can one park contain all the flood in Bangkok? This is people like, yeah, you have a park, but your park, why we still flood? It's like, no, this all design have its own ability, and that park only contain 50 years of precipitation rate. Yeah, it's an infrastructure. It's have limitation. It's like other infrastructure, but you design for the best. But you also, oh, this is the park. Everyone have to come and run, enjoy. The incline have to be for people, for amphitheater as well. So as a designer, you have to balance between fear and between the usage of the people. And you try to make everyone's win. But at the end, when you're doing that, you start to make people like see the different relationship with themselves and the water. You don't need to fear when it's flood here, and you can play with the water, you can live with the water, you can use it for food. And when you change the mindset of people, the solution, the fear is decreased. And when the fear decreased, the design is getting more creative. So I can't say exactly, but I won't go for the extreme. It's such a balance. We are too energetic about the problem. I wouldn't say yes. I would say, well, which is a good or bad. I think it's good to be too energetic. Okay, I think it's good to be energetic, but I think it's very mindful when you make decision. Yes.
Just a follow up to, in terms of, say, your general like plans or designs, for instance, the park that you did in the university that has the 3-degree tilt, did you plan the geometries to sort of evolve and change as the landscape goes on? Or generally is the park, aside from the plants and the gardens growing, is it static in terms of paths and travel places where your paths are?
Statics, yes. We couldn't afford to make all the facade move, and this is huge. But I just feel that there are something that needs to be fixed and something needs to be flexible, like plant material. We have enough soil depth that they can plant many other things. We have enough soil depth on the pillar that they can plant a big trees, and we have, you know, retention pond to collect all the runoff. So there are part of static and part that can be changed. Yes. Okay, I wouldn't leave if I don't get any Asian looking like me questions. Either you are American, Canadians, Asian, or even from this part of the world. I want to hear from you, please. But thank you, Mekan, right? Yes.
Is there any more questions?
There must be an Asian student out there, no?
Hi.
Hey, you sound from, are you Vietnamese? I'm sorry.
Yes.
The neighbor. Yes, I'm from Thailand.
Yes. Yeah, I'm from Vietnam, and recently in my country, we have suffered from a great floods in the center of Vietnam. So I wonder that you have been mentioning a lot of projects, but what I see is that it is a building scale project. So I just wonder that in the future, do you have any ideas or plans in maybe bigger scale that can solve this problem?
Thank you. I really like this question as well. And I just feel that I would like to go regional planning. And I think we all need to go regional because we're not talking about just the impact of flooding. We're talking about where's the water coming from. Maybe we need to fix, we have more forests. Maybe we need to fix without like working without dams or working with dams. Like I think this is a very general regional scale. But my project is very project based, and I just feel that for some audience it's very understandable, it's capturable. But I wish I could go bigger than that. I'm in the process. My design, my I just lost my English. My passion is actually with canal, and I actually want to work with canal because it's a system that hold the water of the whole city. But I understand it have to go by project because right, no one gonna give you okay, fix all the canal. It's gonna be on planning. That's fine. I'm fine with planning, but I need action. But when it's come to action, it's project based. So I'm not talking just one centenary park. I'm talking we need more park. I'm not just talking with one big urban farming. No, I feel like all the way space. This is a policy in its way, but it's like a sandbox that you create. So it just feel like you work top down and bottom up at the same time. And I hope I get that opportunity, and I'm working on it. But yes, I agree with you. We kind of just do project based, but even just project based is still already difficult because you need to convince clients, architects, engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? Are we running out of time? I don't want to keep you guys.
Excuse me, can I ask one more question?
Hi, can you open your...
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Heidi from Shanghai.
Hi, Heidi.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that you mentioned to be parallel with the work trends, and like really every design has limitations, but we aim for the best. So like considering you worked in the US before, like my question is like for how like Asian or like different world like receive public space when you're designing parks, like do you see any like interesting shared spatial experience or any like conflicts about how Asian people perceive as public versus like in the West? Can you hear my question clearly?
Yes. I just feel that maybe there are some questioning about your future, if it's good for us as an Asian woman to work in such Western environment. Is that what you ask?
Oh, sorry. I just like when you're designing parks, like how the public perceive as a public space. Do you find like difference, like say scale wise? Do you see like different design, like layout or spatial arrangement changes when you do designing parks in the States or back in Thailand?
Okay, I try to, when I get a question, I try to understand the underneath question of the question. So, but anyway, I try to answer whatever it is. Okay, working in the West is very different. And I think that another challenging circumstance is not about working in Asia, it's not challenging, it's another challenge. But you have to know yourself and you know your value, you know what change you want to contribute, and which kind of rest or which kind of competition you will be best at, and the outcome give you more value. For me, but working in the West, I feel I'm part of the team, but I'm not part of the public. I feel that I couldn't meet the client because maybe my English, or maybe I'm not gonna be the one who talk to mayor. Right? It's gonna be my senior, the CEO of the company, and it's gonna take me a lot of time to climb up there. And it's not about, of course, it's about gender equity in the general, but I can see my path really clear if I'm working in a corporate world. But if I'm go back to Thailand, I'm nothing. I'm no one. I have to make risk. I have to take a bigger risk, but it's a higher return if I accomplish. And the public reaction is actually something that you kind of expect. It's like you create these things and the human coming in and they like this, they don't like this, they love this. So this is the charming of public space, and I really like having both feedback, good and bad, and I'm learn and I'm improve myself as a designer. So I'm not sure I'm answer your top questions, but I think that's underneath of question you.
Right, exactly. I really appreciate that. Yeah, get involved in the process. Yeah, yes. I appreciate that.
But go strong. It's okay. We are human as well, so we can do it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Koch, I think there is one final question from Ted Landrum in the chat.
Ted, hi Ted. Working with UN, do you foresee working regionally beyond borders?
Is it on?
Yes, Ted.
Is the sound on?
Yes. Oh, perfect.
I can't hear myself. That's the problem. Okay, I don't know if the sound is on, but I'm just going to ask my question, and it is. Okay, good. Well, it's very simple and related to the previous one, and going you want to go even bigger. Obviously, the problems are global. That's a global problem. So, and it's exciting that the UN, that you're involved a little bit with the United Nations. And obviously your example is very inspiring, and people can already learn from your work, and you're learning from other work. So there's an exchange of knowledge. But do you foresee collaborations regionally across, beyond the borders of Thailand even? Like how big of a region do you think it's appropriate or that you can take on as a landscape architect?
Thank you, Ted. And I think I want to take the world. No, I'm kidding. But it's true. But I'm not taking the world in the sense of taking for granted. I want all of us to come together as an expert from the local, because I wouldn't expert the climate impact in Bhutan. I wouldn't expert the climate impact in Laos or even in Canada. What can we help down here? When I say going to the world, is actually us coming together, because climate change, like many people when I come, go copy Netherlands, go copy Japan, and it's just like thinking about the cultural maintenance. We are human that is so different. Thai people are so different than Japanese. We we are not like in the rule. We are just like chaos, like we're crazy. And how can we have to approach the problem, the solution with flexibility? We cannot approach problem with rules, because we are not that type of personality. And I just feel that whatever you try to implement, it's going to impact more than your life, because you're talking about big infrastructure. So be very mindful and be very clear with the local. Like even I'm a local Thai, I'm still working with someone even more local than me, because they live there, they know the flooding, they know what the impact they get, they know how they survive. Use that as your tools to implement. So I would go everywhere. I would let landscape go everywhere, but listen to the local, respect them, and they are their own designer already. You are just learning from them and just helping them doing. So I just feel that, yes, I'm keep repeating myself. So, but yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful. Your energy is infectious. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. It's morning. You get the best part of me. I have 3 more meetings. I'm just gonna go away.
Well, I think that that we're way over time, and it's been your presentation and this conversation has been so dynamic, and your energy is really infectious. And so thank you very much for that, and thank you for being here tonight. And we talked about earlier coming to Manitoba, and if we could convince you, we would supply the warm clothes, and you could come experience Manitoba with us. And so, in the meanwhile, we look forward to continue to hear about your progress on your missions in Bangkok and elsewhere. Yeah. And Megan, thank you as well for your time and thoughts this evening. Thanks to Brandy and Jay and everyone for arranging this, and to the audience for joining us. And remember, tomorrow, there's another atmosphere lecture. Joshua Bolkover from Rural Urban Framework. His lecture will take place tomorrow at 7 p.m. And yes, that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.